Hi, my name's Emma, and I'm a huge book nerd.
You're my library, always open for business, but you never show it. You're just sitting with it, but I know the score, and you're killing it.
Today we'll be talking about a very exciting poetry collection that's coming out on March 20th, so get excited, just a few days away. And that is How to Love the Empty Air by Kristen O'Keeffe Optowicz. Kristen O'Keeffe Optowicz is the author of 7 books of poetry, including The Year of No Mistakes, crowned the Book of the Year for Poetry by the Writers League of Texas. And she's also the author of 2 nonfiction books, most recently Dr. Mooter's Travels, A True Tale of Intrigue and Innovation at the Dawn of Modern Medicine, and believe it or not, her husband is Ernest Cline, the author of Ready Player One, so that's kind of cool. So let me just give you the actual synopsis of the book so that you have that. Vulnerable, beautiful, and ultimately life-affirming, Kristen O'Keeffe Optowicz's work reaches new heights in her revelatory 7th collection of poetry. Continuing in her tradition of engaging autobiographical work, How to Love the Empty Air explores what happens when the impossible becomes real, for better and for worse. Optowicz's journey to find happiness and home in her ever-shifting world sees her struggle in cities throughout America. When her luck changes, in love and in life, she can't help but tell the sun, tell the fields, tell the huge Texas sky, tell myself again and again until I believe it. However, the upward trajectory of this new life is rocked by the sudden death of the poet's mother. In the year that follows, Optowicz battles the silencing power of grief with intimate poems burnished by loss and a hard-won humor, capturing the dance that all newly grieving must do between everyday living and the desire to elope with this grief who is not your enemy, this grief who maybe now is your best friend, this grief who is your husband, the thing you curl into every night, falling asleep in its arms. As in her award-winning The Year of No Mistakes, Optowicz counts her losses and her blessings, knowing how, despite it all, life ripples boundless like electricity, like joy, like laughter, irresistible and bright, an impossible thing to contain. This little poetry collection is really different from a lot of other poetry collections that I have read, so in that way I find it really interesting. So basically, this poetry collection is about the journey of the author losing her mother. And it's very personal and very emotional, which I really appreciated with this. That being said, there were a couple things that I wasn't like the biggest fan of overall. I felt like in general, the poetry leaned a little more towards prose. It's a lot of more lengthy poems and many of them don't really have a structure, so they're just like paragraphs like that. And while those were really nice to read, sometimes they didn't feel a whole lot like poetry. It was just like a short essay almost, like stream of consciousness. There were also some other poems where lines were enjammed, but I wasn't quite sure why, which is something that like in my creative writing class that I'm taking right now is something that I am a little unsure about, because I feel like enjambment should really have a purpose. If you're gonna enjam a line, like have the end of the line hold its own meaning and then carry on to the next line. Like it should be important in some way, I think, and a lot of the poems in here, as well as a lot of the poems I'm reading in my creative writing class, so it's just a me thing, but a lot of the poems don't seem to have a purpose for the enjambment. It's just to like follow a structure. Now back to some more positive things. Again, I also loved a lot of poems in this collection, and I cried several times. Well, I marked 5 poems where I cried, but I know I cried a little more than that because there were just some poems that like really hit you hard, you know? And I really appreciated those poems. I think what got me about them is they were so honest and so specific that I was just like, whoa, I felt like she was sharing her soul with us, which was really, really cool. So like I said before, this book comes out on March 20th, 2018, so you can go ahead and order it if you so desire, or check it out. No pressure to do any of the above. This book was sent to me by the publisher in exchange for an honest review, and this is what I'm doing, an honest review. Overall, I gave this collection of poetry 4 stars, and if you really like personal poetry and like longer form poetry, then I think that this is definitely worth checking out. So I hope you enjoyed this short little review video, and maybe you found this book interesting. If you do, there are links to where you can purchase it in the description box below. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye! Mwah!